Welcome to Tech Talent Today, where IT leaders share their tough challenges, creative solutions, and latest insights. You'll discover fresh ideas and inspiration here with your host, IT staffing veteran and president of Claremont Technologies, Jody Kulik-Mayer. And now, here's Jody.
What if the key to building a successful IT team isn't just about technical expertise? Today's guest, John Erickson, Director of Information Technology at Berje, believes one of his greatest career accomplishments is developing people, not just delivering projects. Drawing from over 2 decades of experience across manufacturing, retail, healthcare, and banking, John shares his unique approach to identifying potential, building strong teams, and creating an environment where people want to stay and grow. Whether you're leading an IT team or aspiring to, you'll want to hear these practical insights on effective people development. Welcome, John. Thanks so much for being here.
Great to be here today, Jody.
So, when we spoke, you mentioned that you're passionate about people development. Now, where did that come from?
Over the years, I've learned that developing people it's a responsibility of us as leaders, right? And whether it's developing somebody who's going to take over after me, if should I be hit by the wayward wine wagon, right? Or other folks on the team, whether or not they have an interest in a management track or a director track, right? Because there's plenty of folks that want to be good at what they do. They wanna be the person who's going to learn everything about that engine room and run that engine room for you, right? But if you develop those folks as individuals and as team members, they work better both as individuals and as team members, right? Regardless of the track that they're on.
Right. I know you mentioned to me that it ranks among one of your greatest accomplishments.
It is. There's, lots of stories. We'll just leave it to that for now.
Right, right. So, let's talk about how you build your team. So, when you're interviewing candidates, what do you look for?
Mostly I look for how they think and act in different situations, right? Are they a team player? Are they going to get along with me and others on the team? How do they handle stressful, difficult situations? Do they collaborate? Are they focused on the customer? Or are they focused entirely on technology, right?
Mhm. And do you have a preference, like that they're focused on the customer, or does it depend?
So one of the questions is what lights up your board more when you come to work in the morning? Is it the business side of it, or is it the technical side of it? And the answer to that kind of tells me where their head is, right? Whether they go, "Oh, I love to make press the buttons and things light up the way that I want it to," or I really want to understand the business and how the technology works with the business, right? That tells me that there's more of a focus on understanding the entire world in which they live other than just the technology itself, right? And, that coupled with some other things that we kinda tease out during an interview helps me understand whether or not they're customer focused, business focused, etcetera.
Right, right. So you also mentioned um, that somebody's like a team player. So how do you decide if you think they're a team player?
I ask them questions, right? I'll use the term again, tease out kind of, how they act in different situations, right? So, tell me about when you worked with a team to achieve a goal. Tell me a time when you had to rely on other people's hands to do your work, right? So maybe you were the team leader or you had to do something that required help from other folks, right? Those are the types of things that give you a sense, right, as to how they answer, whether or not they're thinking about, well, did I have to build a relationship with somebody on the team? Did I have to collaborate with somebody on a team that maybe I liked, maybe I didn't like, whatever, right? You get a sense of that when you start to have those conversations, right? There's not one a one size fits all to how you get there, right?
Right, right. Now, do you have like a few of your favorite interview questions that really like reveal the person?
Yeah. So one of them is, tell me about a time or describe a time when you had to work with a team to achieve a goal. Tell me about a time where you had to work with and rely on others, right, to achieve a goal. Um, Tell me about when things didn't go so well. Maybe you made a mistake, right? Help me understand what went on there. Tell me about s- a time when you went over and above for a particular user or a particular situation, right? That tells me their dedication, right? Desire to make things work. Um, Tell me about a time when you had an unreasonable request, and what did
Oh,
you
that's
do
a good
about
one.
that, right? So, that's kind of a fun one because we get those all the time in IT, right? So, somebody will say, "Well, I don't like the way Microsoft 365 does this or that." I want to change it. And, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, would I go to my car mechanic, right, and say, I want you to put the parking brake and the stopping brake, right, on the same pedal because I thought it was a cool feature that was on a golf cart last week at the golf course, right? You probably wouldn't do that because it's not something that's reasonable, right? But we get those types of things all the time. So how people, react to that, right? Um, Tell me about your greatest accomplishment, right? What are you most proud of? That type of thing. Another fun one is tell me about, biggest decision you've had to make, right? How did you, what was it? How did you arrive at that decision, right? It's all about how people think and act in certain situations. I'm going to say this poorly for people who love technology, but the technical stuff is the easy stuff. We will make that work. These other things are things that are developed over time and are important, right? These are important for you to be successful in a technology world, whatever your technology is, right? Whether you're a personal trainer, or you're an accountant, or in IT, you need to, you need to be able to think and act and work among other people.
Right, right. Now, if somebody is not like a natural for that, do you think that can be coached or taught?
I think it can, right? But it has to start early, right? If you're too far down the line, it might be hard to snap that rubber band, right? So early on in the career, the individuals that are most likely to succeed, in my opinion, are those that um, are willing to be human about their right? And be a person, right? About what it is that they're doing. It's gonna help in all their relationships, whether it's spouse, significant other, picking up your clothing at the dry cleaners, having that discussion with the mechanic about, what the issue is with your car or whatever, right?
Right, right. Um, and I was thinking back to the when you mentioned like you asked people to tell you so about something that did not go well. Um, do people usually give a business scenario? Do they give a personal scenario? Do they usually like also give like what they learned from it, or they just said like this didn't go well? Wow.
So that's interesting because I would say the ones that are more self-aware are the ones that are able to say, "This is what I learned," right? "I learned X, Y, or Z." If I have to tease it out of them, right, it's okay if I'm able to tease it out of them, but if all I got was, "Yeah, it didn't work well," and, you know, "Let's move it along," you can kinda get that sense, that tells me something too. I would say that those are more self-aware folks who are able to kinda look back and go, "Yeah, you know what? I stubbed my toe because," and if I move that piece of furniture, I'm probably not gonna stub my toe again, right?
Right. Or my mother says, you always wear your shoes so you don't break your toe.
There you go.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also think that somebody preparing for an interview could start like thinking in that way, right? Because to know you're going to be asked about the difficult things, but to be ready.
Yeah, I agree with that, and these are really, some a couple of the questions the way I ask them might be nuanced a little, but they're fundamentally the same, right? And if you're preparing for an interview, you should be, and if you're on the interview circuit, you should have your stories, right? And you may not be able to tell
Yes.
those stories exactly the same each time, but you'll have your 5 or 6 stories that you can reach into your little bag and go, "I'm going to use this story because I understand what's being asked of me, and I can use that story to convey, right, what ho how I learned, how I was successful, how I helped this individual, etcetera."
Right. I love stories for showing those things because I think they're more compelling than just saying, you know, I did this, I did that. Like a story really shows who you are.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And um do you like it when somebody like for what you're proud of or your difficult decision, do you like it when somebody uses a personal example instead of a business example?
Yeah, I'm smiling because one of the most difficult decisions usually has something to do around a marriage,
Right.
right? And it's good that they're able to be comfortable there. Some folks will say, "So, did you want a business example? Did you want a personal example?" Dealer's choice, right? Right?
Yeah.
You decide. It's okay, right? Whatever you feel like sharing, right?
Right. Yeah. And so you've hired people who've given both personal and business examples?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Right.
Yep.
I don't want people to be afraid to pick one,
No,
right?
no, no, no. I'm sure. I've never had anybody who told a story that was, we'll just say, outside of reasonable parameters.
Right. That's good news. When we were talking, you mentioned to me that like you have an interesting perspective on uh like technical and interpersonal skills that like both are 100%.
Yep.
Tell me your thoughts on that. Yeah, that was great.
So, so in order for you to be successful in whatever your discipline is, whether it's IT or use a personal trainer or automobile mechanic, right? Whoever it is, you've got to be good at your craft, right? You've got to continue to hone that aspect of your craft. The other skills, right? Whether you call them personal skills, Gary Vaynerchuk, he calls them hard skills, right? The soft skills are the hard skills. Simon Sinek, he calls them human skills, right? These are the things that you need to survive in life, right? And they transcend both the business and your personal life. So whoever you're dealing with, you have to be able to understand the situation. You might have to collaborate with I was helping my son move furniture last week. We collaborated. We communicated as we were carrying things down into the basement, right? And it wasn't just thump, 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 but we worked together to get it done, right? So you have to be collaborative. You have to be aware of those around you and their feelings and their situations, their perspectives, right? So you have to be aware of your customer service, right? What folks are really looking for, and how do you maybe tease out what they're looking for versus what they think they're looking for, right? All those things are important because if all you're focused on is making the technology work in the way that you want it to work versus the way that's going to be the best for the business, you're probably going to get into hot water. Right. And probably the best way to explain that is by an example of somebody who was on my team where it didn't work. Right. So um, this individual was good at his technical craft. He was very myopic because his technical way was the way, but it was his way, right? And he was good at it. But his human skills were so, um, underdeveloped that he did a really good job of alienating people on the business side, alienating people on his own team, alienating me, so he set himself up to kinda die on that mountain alone, right? Is the best way to say it. So, you know, short version of the longer story is that it didn't work out so well for him, and he's no longer with that company, right? So, that whereas other folks on that team who communicate, they may not know the answer, they'll talk to others, will figure it out, they're still there and thriving, right? So, that's a clear example of how it doesn't work well for you, but there's hundreds of where it does.
Right. Um, so I guess he was not, this person was not even open to coaching and feedback from you. They were just sure of how they were proceeding. Is that just how it worked out?
Tried multiple ways. He even on his own got some outside help and just couldn't get past it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. It is difficult, right? Because he did try to help himself. But I find when there's someone on the team that's uh, uh, like toxic to the team, other people, like other good people, start leaving your team.
I was lucky that that didn't happen,
Right.
but they basically stopped working with him, and
Right.
he kinda isolated himself, and the rest of the team did a really good job of isolating him further because, he just simply put, he wasn't getting it, right?
Right.
He wasn't
Right.
getting it.
Yeah. That's a tough situation. I guess, right, being a recruiter, a lot of times I'm getting calls because, right, there's someone on the team or the hiring manager. It's one of the others. It's a are, are not a fit, and that's usually when people want to leave. So, on a more positive note, do you have a success story about someone who developed, I guess, like beyond your expectations?
Yeah, same company,
Oh,
right? Same
yeah,
company.
lots happening in this company.
Lot happened. Well, I was there for about 10 years, so
Y-
there was a lot going on there.
yeah.
When I first started with the company, one of the individuals, he expressed to me that he wanted to move up a management track. He had not had the opportunity before, but he really wanted this. Of course, this was, I wanna say, week 1 or week 2 that I was there, so I'm still drinking from the fire hose in all respects. So, I said, "Okay, let's continue to talk about this. Let's see if we can sort this out." And, over time, I got the sense that his potential, right, was there, and we started to talk about it a little bit more, and, you know, if you really want this, it's gonna help if you start thinking and acting like a manager. Let's figure out something that can help you grow in this capacity. We had a set of outside contractors that were helping with our support the back end of our data warehouse at the time, and I said, "Why don't you take over supervising these folks? I'm here to help you, but go for it." When it came time, and he did well, and he responded to coaching. When it came time for that promotion to manager, it wasn't a hard sell because he'd been selling himself all along, and he'd been doing it all along, and I was vocal about him doing it all along, right? So he got that promotion to manager. He excelled at that. Um, Things were reorganized. I kind of moved over to the infrastructure side. Since I had moved over there, he had been promoted twice to directors, then to assistant vice president. We were peers, right, for a period of time within that 10-year slot. So, for me, it's great to see him grow and excel, right? And right now, he's running the whole data side of things, right? Data science, all of the reporting, analytics, right? Did all kinds of great things with the technology and with with the business, supporting the business through that technology. So it's great to see somebody like that excel, right? And, you know, I feel good that I was able to give him that stepping stone, right? And then obviously it's on him to keep running, and he did. Right.
Right. So it's all from you saying, "Hey, why don't you manage the contractors?" That's
Well, that was kind of the entry point to, okay,
yeah.
if you want to be a manager, let's test it. Let's start doing
Mhm.
it, right? And if you're doing it, it becomes easier for you to step into the full-fledged manager role because you're already displaying those behaviors, and you're showing that you can do it, right? So that you're showing that that you have the potential to do it. So that becomes the stepping point.
Right. There's nothing like showing as
Exactly,
opposed
exactly.
yeah.
I want, right? And he wasn't like that, of course, right? But
Right.
I want, but let's start to do it.
Yeah. Well, I have to give you credit for creating an environment where somebody feels that, they can share their opinions and try things that maybe they haven't done before. So, what are you doing so people are feeling that way?
So part of it is by me showing that I'm interested in their ideas, that I am um that I'm open to their ideas, that I'm also vulnerable if I make a mistake, right? And I'm okay with them saying, "Yeah, you know what? We don't think that's going to work, John, because of X, Y, or Z," right? But no idea is a bad idea, right? And it it it's also opening up to the team itself, right? And we meet weekly. We talk about in-flight projects, we talk about issues that might have come up during the week, whatever it is, and that's, a designated time to have some of that discussion. What's interesting is that over time, I've seen some of my team, and I sit out amongst the people, right? I don't sit in an office, and that's
Oh,
important because we're kind of living and breathing as a team, and I hear them chattering about different things. Problems that they're working through, issues that they're working through, how they're handling things, and over time, they just start to think and act that way, right? It isn't any one thing, but it's just this sense of, I'm not standing there or sitting there on the mountain handing down directives, right? My role is to get us to working together as a team, right? And one interesting, um recent example is, right, October is Cybersecurity Month. I made the statement back in August, "Hey, October is Cybersecurity Month. Should we do something?" "Yeah, we should do something." And everybody played a role. Everybody took part in some way, right? I picked some optional videos to fan out to the organization. Um, Couple of other folks on the team, they put together interactive games and individual games, a scavenger hunt and a word search and those types of things, right? I went to Sam's and bought a big bag of candy so that we could hand candy out during some of the games, right? We included also the production folks, right? The folks that are out on the manufacturing floor, and during their weekly meetings, they watch. So this became a company inclusive, right? So I'm telling you the story, but the credit really goes to the entire team because not any one of us owned it. It became a mini project on our backlog for the month, right? For the month and a half or so that we were planning it. Everybody took their piece. We all put it together. We talked about it every week, right? And it started from a statement, should we do something, to something that people in a company were talking about. There was chatter in the halls, right? So it helped from a cybersecurity perspective. It helped from an IT perspective because now some folks that, yes, they're support and whatnot, but they're also, viewed as sort of the back office of IT. Now all of a sudden we're out front, right? And it was good for everybody on the team to have some fun with that, and good for the company to see us in that different light.
Definitely. And also, right, for training purposes, you said, right, for cybersecurity, because, right, people are like an area where like hackers can get in. Right. So the training of people
Yeah,
is really
this
key.
about continued awareness and these little
Right.
nuggets, keeping the nuggets in front of everybody. That
Yes.
was the ultimate thing, but it was also about how does the team work together? How do they um, how did we start with the one sentence
Right.
and put together this program, which by the way also included Amazon gift cards, right? Had raffles for Amazon gift cards. We just kind of amped it up a bit.
Right. Between Amazon gift cards and candy,
Yeah,
it's like you're guaranteed
yeah,
participation there.
not
So,
necessarily in that order.
right. That's true. So, your people focused approach, like, how have you seen that play out in terms of like retention and performance?
It, so positive to both.
Hmm.
Um, right? That positive to both. There are long term folks on my team who were here when I started at Berje
Wow. Hmm.
that continue to be here, with the one exception at the previous company. Right, those folks are still there, and I imagine that with the new leadership there, they're continuing to think and act in the way that they were before, working together right cohesively as a team. And in terms of performance, individually, everybody does their thing, but collectively, it's even stronger, right? And here's another, relatively recent example, right? We had to do, we were asked to help with a um, little construction project, right? And we were invited because we needed to be invited, right? And those types of things from an IT perspective have a lot of detail associated with them, right? Where wiring goes and how things get plugged in and how networks get configured and the fact that we didn't have enough ports on our switches. We had to go buy other switches, right? There was a lot of detail. And one of the folks on my team had never done that sort of thing before, but I assigned it to him. And in the beginning, he was um, uncomfortable, right? He was uncomfortable. You could see he was because he had not done this before. But I had some conversations with him, and his teammates had some conversations with him that were, look, we need to be successful at this, right? We're not going to um, we're going to give you some runway, but we're not going to walk you to the edge of the plank, so to speak, right? And push you into the water, but we're here to be sure that you're able, right, to swim. Um, he ran through a lot of it on his own. Once he got some momentum, it was interesting to see how he worked better with some of the facilities maintenance people. He was saying, "We need this type of thing. Can we order it?" Right? As opposed to somebody standing over him. He got into that driver's seat, right? And he worked his way through it. He created a color coding scheme for all of the network wires, right? This is a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but color coding schemes so we know where wireless access points are plugged in and where desks are plugged in and where printers are plugged in so that when you look, the pink ones are this and the purple ones are that, right? He figured out all this stuff on his own and drove it with the help of the team that that he's a part of, that this was a success, right? It's viewed as his success because he owned it. It's viewed as IT's success because um, we worked with him on it, right? And he came to me after and said, uh, I was visibly concerned. Yeah, I know, right? But I've got some confidence now as a part of this that I can do this. I said, good, because that was part of the reason for the assignment. I can see the confidence. Others can see the confidence. Glad you had a positive experience. Let's look for the next thing. right? And that's where you see the team behind him helping. You see he's the face to the business and to the other groups that he's working with, and, seeing that as a success is, it's great for him, it's great for the IT team, right? I always say their success is our success, right? So,
Right.
if everybody's working well together and we're getting stuff done, we all own that success,
Right.
right?
Yes, that sounds fantastic. What a great story. Um, do you have a parting thought for people?
Yeah, regardless of the role that we're in, it's our job as leaders, right, to develop our people regardless of what their aspirations are. And if we're not working to develop our people and our teams, it's really a disservice to them and to the organizations in which we work, right? But even with just some of the little examples that I gave, right? And these are not huge projects, right? But these are, these little nuggets that kind of help things move along, right? With some a little bit of guidance and a little bit of teamwork and a little bit of confidence building, people can do extraordinary things where they didn't think that they could before, or maybe go beyond, the AVP example, go beyond some of the expectations that I had when I first met the individual, right? So, regardless of the outcome, we have to continue to push to develop and grow our folks.
Right. That is fantastic, John. And I think it probably stems right from right in the beginning, finding the right people for your team.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely, right.
Yeah. Well, John, this has been great. Really appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks, Jody. I appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Thanks for listening to Tech Talent Today, brought to you by Clearmont Technologies IT Staffing and Search. You can find out more at clearmonttech.com. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and share. See you next time.